I'm hosting a lesbian speed dating night with this microphone, and maybe I am. Maybe that's my calling in life. Watch this space. Watch this space. Gosh, this show is lesbian crack. I have not left my bedroom for 10 hours. The daylight burns my skin. The emotional intensity of this show is unprecedented. Like, I knew this show was going to be 90% crying before I watched it, and it was. That is what lesbianism consists of. It's just crying and pining over women. We all know this to be true. Any straight women who have misconceptions about lesbian dating should watch this show for a wake-up call. The crying, but my god. It should be known that I do want Lexi to ruin me both physically and emotionally. I do. That woman is a tall glass of wine and I want to be drunk. Hi guys, welcome to a video, and in today's video I just wanted to discuss The Ultimatum, Queer Love, a Netflix show about 5 lesbian couples who enter the show with an ultimatum about their relationships. Obviously this video contains spoilers, so you have been warned. You have. I need to quench my thirst. ASMR. We have a lot to discuss, so let's just get into it. I'm gonna start with the most controversial person on the show, and that is Vanessa. Was she manipulative, disingenuous, and generally irritating? Yes. But did she also bring the juice? Yes. It's a reality show, it's made for entertainment, and she was entertaining. I think she was a fantastic antagonist. She loved to antagonize, you know? I think with Vanessa, if you don't understand her and you don't really get her, I think it's very easy to hate her. She does ruffle feathers. She does, but she's very intelligent. She knows what she's doing, and she knows how to provoke people. Clearly. Funnily enough, despite her unpopularity, I do not think she was the most toxic person on the show by any means. For me, the worst thing about Vanessa was the way that she took Xander for granted, particularly near the beginning of the show. And it was interesting to see how at the start, Xander was not really in control of their relationship. Vanessa was, but by the end of the show, it was very much Xander in the driving seat. I just felt like Vanessa really took Xander for granted, you know, just kind of assumed she was gonna be there for her by the end of it, because she has quite an inflated ego, whether that's just a facade which stems from having a lot of insecurities that she's trying to compensate for or cover up, I don't know. But you could see her really starting to flail when she realized things were not going her way, and in fact Xander wasn't just a doormat. I think Vanessa's dad was right when he was talking about the fact that Vanessa only wanted Xander back because of her ego. I also think it was to do with control. I think she thought Xander was less than and she was more than. I very much think that dynamic was kind of going on and was very detrimental to their relationship. That said, I do think the both of them have a genuine bond. You could see there was a lot of love there. And I think if Vanessa ever worked through her insecurities and had a lot of growth and kind of put in the work, I don't see why they couldn't have a relationship in the future, to be honest. Because the love is there. You can see that the love is there between them, you know. Moving on to Mal and Yoli. Oh my god, this is an interesting one. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people, including myself, love Mal. She's intelligent, she has a good energy, she's chill, she can articulate herself very well, and she's good looking. She is. But I think she has a history with Yoli that we don't know about. And what I mean by that is I think there's more to Mal that we're perhaps not necessarily aware of. And I think this because throughout the show, it seemed to me that Yoli was quite resentful towards Mal, and she's feeling that way for a reason. There was some talk about Yoli having to chase Mal, particularly in the past. Maybe this is a bit of an assumption on my end, but it kind of seemed to me that Yoli had been either emotionally or romantically neglected by Mal. Like, the way Mal shows up for Yoli is not necessarily the way that Yoli wants Mal to show up. You know, like, the safety and the security is there, but the romance and the feelings are maybe not. So when Xander came along and gave Yoli all of those things that were missing, I don't blame Yoli for taking them. I think it said a lot about their relationship that Yoli got physical with somebody else, but Mal didn't. And again, I think there's a reason for that. I just think there's part of their relationship that we're not seeing. I also was not expecting Yoli to accept Mal's proposal. It seemed wrong to me. You could see in Yoli's eyes that it wasn't what she wanted. You could see her heart wasn't there. And in Yoli's defense, she did communicate how she was feeling. She straight up told Mal that she was in love with somebody else, and it was a choice for Mal to propose despite knowing that. Yes, Yoli was playing with two people's hearts. I think that's fair to say, but also I kind of understand how she got in that position. And I also think for the most part, she communicated things pretty clearly. I don't think she ever kind of misled Mal. Perhaps she misled Xander a bit. Yeah, I mean, taking the ring off before she went to see Xander was a little bit manipulative, come on. But, you know, the thing is, I have a soft spot for Yoli. I think her eyes are just dreamy pools of romance, and I would probably fall in love with her myself. So this is biased, it is. I have to say that love triangle was my favorite thing about this show. I was very invested. I was so invested in this love triangle, my God. I did love Mal with Lexi. They definitely had a soulmate energy. Very stereotypical of Virgos and Capricorns to kind of like vibe like that. Vanessa's also a Virgo, but she must have some kind of fire and air in her birth chart. There is no way that she can be mostly Earth with all that spiciness. Mal and Lexi definitely on the same wavelengths. I think they're one of my favorite relationships in the show. They just seem to be at home with each other. The whole thing was just kind of organic, you know? Mal and Lexi were probably the healthiest relationship to come like out of the show, to be honest. You can tell they're going to be friends for a very long time. Just very chill. As for Lexi and Ray, probably one of my favorite couples on the show. I was just waiting for them to kiss. That's all I wanted to do, was see them kiss for selfish lesbian purposes. And we did get some kisses towards the end. We did, which I was very happy about. But I'm a sucker for small and tall femme combinations. And honestly, I just wish I was Ray. I wish I was Ray, and I wish Lexi was my mummy. That's what I wish. The way that Lexi looks after Ray and feels so intensely about her, I'm just such a sucker for that. I'm so in love with Lexi, you don't understand. First of all, she's tall, she's strong, she's gorgeous, but she's intelligent, she's intuitive, she's very sensible, she's surly, she's driven. If I was Ray, I would just be, there's no way I would have even looked at another woman. Yeah. But anyway, I do feel like Ray felt suffocated from time to time, which is fair because despite how much I love Lexi, she does come across as controlling, particularly when it came to kind of how Ray was like interacting with Vanessa. It definitely crossed the line a bit, but you could also see they were like crazy about each other, and I don't know, it was an interesting pairing. It was an interesting pairing because Ray is so kind of reserved and a little bit unsure of herself, and Lexi is like the opposite. What was interesting about Ray and Vanessa is, first of all, I think Ray went for Vanessa to kind of spite Lexi. I think she saw that Lexi and Vanessa were at one point what looked to be connecting before things went south, and I think that kind of motivated Ray to get involved with Vanessa a little bit just to keep tabs. But funnily enough, I think Vanessa kind of brought out this different side to Ray, and I think she took a lot of the weight that Ray carries off of her shoulders. characters. I don't think Vanessa was necessarily like a bad influence on Ray at all. And it's an interesting contrast in comparison to the way that Ray is with Lexi. That said, I don't think that Ray and Vanessa should have ever hooked up. I think that whole situation was cursed. There was a really bad energy that was present after it, which kind of usually indicates that it shouldn't have happened, that it was cursed, and that it was. I also think it did permanent damage to Ray and Lexi's relationship, whether they ever really kind of worked through it properly before Ray proposed, I don't know, but I think perhaps Lexi went into this experience thinking that she would be open to that, but the reality was different, and especially since it was Vanessa who she was enemies with. Capricorns hold a grudge like nobody else. Don't ever fuck with one. Just don't. Lexi's like a prime example of why not to do that. Moving on to Sam and Ozzy, I adored Sam. I adore Sam so much. She's an innocent cinnamon roll. She's an angel. She's an unproblematic fave. But I did not like her relationship with Ozzy at all. It feels to me like Ozzy has a lot of growing to do as a person, and it was obvious to me that Sam was always catering to Ozzy and compromising for Ozzy and coddling her in some ways, which I didn't think was fair because Ozzy's a grown woman. And I think the thing with Ozzy is it's complicated because you can see how much she is the way that she is because of her upbringing, because of all the trauma she's still harboring from her childhood, and she's trapped in a box of what's expected of her still. I mean, you can tell because she still hasn't come out to her parents. She still kind of seems kind of trapped by expectation, and it's easy to kind of judge that from the outside, but when you're trapped in it, when you're from a particular culture or a more traditional background, it's not as easy as just saying like fuck it. But really it's frustrating because from the outside you can see her potential and you could see the kind of person she could be if she would just kind of work through the trauma. It's not to say that perhaps she hadn't been doing the work with confronting, you know, her trauma and her communication skills, but I think because Sam kind of coddles her to an extent, it stunts Ozzy's growth. You know, how can you have a relationship with somebody who doesn't want to have the uncomfortable conversations or who can't take criticism in an adult way? I think that would get tired really quick. Speaking of toxicity, let's talk about Ozzy and Mildred. I think these two were really interesting because both of their communication skills need a lot of work, and both of their kind of toxic traits are rooted in trauma, and yet they both deal with it very differently. For example, when Mildred feels hurt, I feel like she tries to control the narrative and she becomes quite antagonistic. There's definitely a defensiveness that goes up, and then she tries to kind of hammer away at the person who's hurt her, whereas Ozzy's like the complete opposite, and she'll just kind of check out. Neither of them know how to communicate effectively, and I think them being put together kind of highlighted everything that was kind of negative about their communication skills. But going off of that, I absolutely loved Sam and Tiff and the way that their relationship developed and grew and how much they kind of learned from each other. I think Sam was such a healthy influence on Tiff, and I hope that they're still friends. I think Sam and Tiff were definitely my favorite dynamic on the show, and I could have watched 10 hours of them just hanging out and doing stuff. I think they must have had really interesting, deep conversations. I think Tiff in particular had a lot to gain with spending time with Sam, and I shipped them. I was shipping them. They should have kissed. Oh my gosh. And lastly, we have Tiff and Mildred, who were just a complete toxic train wreck. Oh my gosh. They had one of those relationships which are completely dysfunctional, but are taped together by physical attraction and an unhealthy attachment due to past traumas. Both of them seem to kind of lead with their emotions instead of just taking a breath and thinking through what needs to be said. And I felt like whenever Tiff attempted to have healthy communication with Mildred, it was like thrown back in her face, and I'm not surprised things went badly. after the show ended between them, because you could see there were a lot of problems between the both of them from the very start. And I don't think Tiff was always an angel, but I felt like she was more willing to kind of take accountability and listen, as opposed to Mildred, who again just seemed to be very defensive, which obviously makes it, you know, difficult to communicate with somebody in a healthy way if one party does not want to hear it, you know? I'm not surprised that most of the couples broke up after the show ended. I think if you even consider taking your relationship on this kind of show, it's probably already very broken to begin with, and all this show kind of did was shine a light on the problems that these couples were having, maybe expose some unwanted truths, and threw other people into the mix. Like, there was never going to be like a healthy outcome, you know? I believe Ozzy and Sam are like the only couple who are still together. But what starts in chaos ends in chaos. That's a quote from the L Word. So that's my thoughts on all of the couples and all of the drama. I think my favorite thing had to be the Yoli, Mao, and Xander love triangle. I was, oh my gosh, so invested. I was really hoping that Xander and Yoli were gonna stay together. But useless lesbians. That's all I have to say. Okay guys, let me know your thoughts, let me know your takes on all of the couples, on all of the drama. Give me your brew down in the comments section below. If you want to support lesbian content and women's voices, and come and join the Sapphic Underground Club. Just come and join it. It's pretty much just a monthly tip for the content that I put out. That's it. Because it's time for you to commit, unlike the women on this show. Okay. Don't forget to subscribe for instant disappointment, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye. We can go on together with suspicious minds. Suspicious minds.